how would you like to make your first million? And today we have Justin Dixon with us, joining us from Texas, as he's an entrepreneur, an investor, angel and real estate, a podcaster, and Iron Man. So he quit his six-figure job to start a recruiting firm in January 2020, right before after COVID became a global pandemic. So he knows what it's like to get kicked in the teeth just as a start your business, which is perfect for this broadcast. So Justin, tell us, what are the 5 steps that you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Yeah, no, Harry, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to have a chat today. So I would say the 5 kind of areas, and I guess maybe these might not be exactly step order, but it's some areas to kind of think about. I think, starting a business can be a calling, or you may need to find a passion that you want to really drive towards that'll keep you going, because it's never a straight line from 0 to 1, right? So find a passion, something you're passionate about, or find a problem that you can solve that you may be able to really lean into. My opinion would be to kind of start slow and ask for a lot of feedback. So gather feedback from friends, from potential customers, because eventually you're going to need to sell your product or service, right? So you need to get as much feedback as you possibly can in those early days, and have as little kind of ego as possible, because sometimes if you start with down one path and somebody says that your baby looks ugly and you got to pivot, you don't want to, beholden to one path. And then once you get that initial feedback, I think you start with an MVP, a minimally viable product, get out there in the market, start to get some paying customers. And then the next phase is up to you. You can either bootstrap it, which means you fund it yourself and kind of grow it steadily, which could be a nice profitable business, or you raise money from a venture capital or private equity group to essentially help you fuel to that 1 million and even past that. And I think kind of the 5th thing that I would comment on, something that I'm very passionate about, is talent. So, investing early in making sure you find the right talent doesn't necessarily mean you've got to use a recruiting firm like mine. But in order to go from 0 to 1, you can do a lot with technology these days, but a lot of times you need people to help you drive to success.
Ego, the biggest enemy of the startup founders. I'm glad that you brought this up, Justin, because I was one of them, right? I mean, we all have ego because we are entrepreneurs. We think that we can do better. So let's start that the fact that you're an entrepreneur, you have your ego is is at the above level of the standard.
Right.
However, the challenge, Justin, exactly what you just described, is when somebody's gonna come and tell you your baby is ugly, how you react to that. It will determine the success and the failure of the startup. Is a key player. So for me, I remember that when I started my business, I didn't listen to anybody. I was thinking I'm a big deal, and everybody had to do what I say. I don't trust anyone. I had to do everything myself, and I was so exhausted, so tired, so angry. But when I surrendered that ego and I start to listen to people and I start to bring the people from my team and open up, something amazing happened. The employees that were better than me at everything, to the point one day I arrived to the office and sent me home. Told me don't need me anymore.
Right.
So Justin, when do you have this breakthrough? Because you're coming from corporate, okay? And now you are an entrepreneur. We're gonna talk about later about this. How you knew that that ego that you have that make you the drive to start the business, also you have to surrender to it in order to progress. Tell us a little bit more about this transformation.
Yeah, I think for me, I guess I'll start out with I grew up in a really small town in a rural part of Pennsylvania. So I never was around kind of quote unquote true entrepreneurs, in my kind of outlook on kind of the job. And what I was supposed to do was you go to college, you get a good job, you invest in your 401k, hope you've got enough money when you retire at 65 or 70. And around kind of 2017, 2018, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that really kind of flipped a little bit of a switch in my brain around because I was marching down that path. I had been in the recruitment world. I was in corporate America. I had a good job, and I was married. My wife had a good job, so we were doing the things that we were supposed to do. And then this book talked a lot about investing differently, and that means investing your money and investing your time and energy in different things outside of anybody working for a company. You are essentially helping that owner of that company, whether it's an investment company or a person, make a lot of money, right? Because you are helping them build their business. And so I was like, well, why am I helping somebody else build a business? Why don't I go out and start something that I'm passionate about, and start a business? So I've been in recruiting my entire career. So I was like, why not go down that path? Because that seemed the easiest and the most logical. But it took me a few years to really change my mindset away from being a 9 to 5 W-2 employee, because both my wife and I are very risk averse. And so I'm not the type of person that just takes a jump without knowing kind of where I'm going. We spent about a year and a half really building not only our mindset, but building our financial foundation so that when I decided to kind of quit my job, that we felt as financially comfortable as we possibly could, so that if something bad happened in the first year, I didn't make a lot of money, or it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, we weren't going to completely decimate our savings and completely ruin our kind of financial future. Little did I know that quitting a 6-figure job in 2020, January of 2020, to start a recruiting business was going to be arguably one of the worst times to start a recruiting business, right as COVID was starting and the world was shutting down and nobody was hiring. That was definitely not even part of my worst case scenario. But luckily, we the things that we did in the year before I jumped out to kind of make sure that year, while it was terrible for a lot of reasons and for a lot of people, it didn't completely destroy our financial lives. And we're still around. The business is still growing, and it's well.
So from corporate to entrepreneur, I think a lot of a big part of our audience, they are what we call it cash rich, time poor. And some of them are listening this broadcast. And by the way, this book also, the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was the book that I read, and also kind of a similar story and transformed my life. It was a key element to start our property business. We wanted to sell over 5 million. So a lot of people listen the broadcast and they say, wow, that's amazing what Justin did. He managed to one from the corporate life, which is a 6-figure income, and save between brackets, but let's call it like that, and take and open the business. But as you described, Justin, and this is what we want to for clarification to the audience, you said that you are someone that is very risk averse, and I agree with you, right? The transition, some of our listeners, they want to do the transition between corporate to being an entrepreneur. But here's a few things that you just described, and I agree with you. Number one, you prepared the foundation, right? When I was working as a service attendant in London, in the parallel, I was starting my business. I didn't have a secure corporate job, but it was kind of the same thing, Justin. You keep doing your work, and on the weekends or when you have free time, you start to prepare that foundation to prepare these, when you can call it product market fit, to what product you want to offer there, to see somebody want to buy it. And then maybe you have some saving, you buy 2-3 properties, or something that can give you some of the financial stability. So then when you quit your job, even look how well you prepared this, that even worst time on the planet arrive for someone to start a business, and you're
Yeah.
still in business. So how clever and how well done has been this foundation that you created before, because that's the other thing, just in that by creating this foundation, some people from corporate, after they arrive to be an entrepreneur and they don't like it, Because when you do this transition in corporate, you said to the people, this is not my job and it's okay. But when you're an entrepreneur, everything is your job. And some
Yep.
people want only the free time, the until the business, you reach this point that you have free time and you manage your own calendar and you have freedom in your life. It's gonna be a time that everything's gonna be your job. And so tell us just in one thing. Number one, how you face adversity, right? And what what do you recommend to people in corporate that want to transition to entrepreneur in terms of foundation? I want to enhance this because I think that
Yeah.
it's amazing how you plan it and will be a great benefit for our audience if you can expand a little bit more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, just some of the things that we did, everybody's transitional foundation will be different, right? We didn't have kids, we didn't have the, overhead that, you've got to be planning for the future and things like that. It was just my wife and I. And so some of the things that we did was we bought a duplex that was going to flowing. So we had some passive income coming from that. We owned a condo in Philadelphia that we ended up moving out of and renting. So we had another investment property there that was cash flowing. And we did kind of the exact opposite of what a lot of our friends were doing, from the standpoint that, most of our friends were moving to the suburbs, buying a house, expanding their life, having kids, things like that. And my wife and I were doing the opposite. We essentially downgraded. We went from a very nice big condo to a smaller 2-bedroom apartment. And the whole point of that exercise was we wanted to get we had a decent cash savings, but we wanted to get our expenses to a point where my wife's salary completely covered all of our life, so that if I'm $0 in my business, we wouldn't have to dip into savings to live. We wouldn't have been able to like travel and do all the fun things that we did. We could minimally kind of things, but we were comfortable with that because we saw the potential for that. Taking that one step back could literally be 10 steps forward, in the next year or two. And so those are just some of the things kind of financially and kind of structurally that we did to provide some financial stability, some passive income. So we still had some money coming in the door in addition to my wife's salary. And then it was really just a matter of kind of getting my because I was going to take the risk, quote unquote. But ultimately, my wife was, you need a supportive partner, regardless of what that partner looks like, in order to be successful. In my opinion, I think, if she would have been super supportive of me, I may not have had the courage and ability to jump out and kind of take a risk, because you're not only taking a risk on yourself, you're risking family, right? And so you're kind of risking their future, for a better future, right? Not just to kind of go back to the status quo. And so, that was kind of what we did to kind of jump out. And I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking about what I need to do in order to feel comfortable, your comfortable level may be different than mine. It may be more or less. I know people that have $0 in the bank, they quit their job and they start a business and they figure it out. That wasn't me. I need to have some stability. I'm not a burn all the boats kind of person. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I had that kind of comfortability. But again, COVID completely changed all of that because there was no safety net. There was no going back. Businesses were shut down. Nobody was hiring for the first kind of 6-8 months. And it was quite scary. But, I go back to luckily having a very supportive partner. I didn't have to, she wasn't like nagging me or being like, what are you doing? What are you not doing? And all that stuff. It was very much we're going to get through this. But yeah, I think the kind of comfortability level will be different for each person. But I would say if you're thinking about it, I would talk to people that have done it, right? Talk to people that have taken the plunge because, just like you and I are sharing our stories, like, we're always happy to help kind of maybe have people allow people to jump over the potholes that we got stuck in. So maybe they can be more successful or as, but faster.
1 out of 5 entrepreneurs that we interview in this broadcast, they are either property investors, property entrepreneurs. They have some property as a to start to create this to replace their income. So and coming from the book from Roy Kiyosaki, which is talks a lot about cash flow, which is something that we we talk a lot with our listeners to make sure that if when you're gonna buy a property, to have a cash flow, right? Even when you have a business, make sure that this business have a healthy cash flow. So I'm a big fan of cash flow when it comes to. But Justin, tell us, why do you think that you were interviewed over 500 millionaires in this podcast? Why do you think that one out of five they are property investors? Of course, they're doing different things. Some people are doing development, some people are doing infrastructure, some people are doing buy to let, some people are flipping their houses, some people so a lot of different. Some people are doing the other day. Somebody came to the podcast that they were doing buildings, a huge project for people with low income, and he was doing fantastic. So, but as a vehicle, Justin, can you share the good, the bad, and the ugly of property? Because it sounds amazing, but I know because I'm in, in a space that something goes wrong in property, you can get a hit. It's expensive. You make a mistake in property. So how people can avoid the mistake? Can you share the good, the bad, and the ugly of property?
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, I have experienced all three of those.
Everybody
I
isn't.
think, I think if you do it long enough, you probably will as well. Anybody that's doing it will go through the different cycles. So, I think the first property that we bought was the duplex, and that was, for all intent and purposes, a really good investment. It cashed immediately.
Wow.
We had a few because we bought it, I think, in 2018 or 2019. And so, we had hiccups through COVID with people having to, lost their jobs and all that stuff. But on balance, we made money on the exit. We ended up selling it about a year ago. The condo, the same thing. We bought it to live in, and then we're like, hey, we can actually cover well more than our mortgage because we owned it for 4 years,
Wow.
and then we ended up renting it out. So we made money on that, and then we sold it. But I will say, so those two, our first were not grand slams or home runs, but definitely triples or doubles.
Wow, amazing.
And but got into multifamily, and those. And unfortunately, we just timed the market very, very incorrectly. We started really getting involved in multifamily syndications, where I was trying to find deals. I was raising money and for deals that I knew, people that were finding. And we're still invested in all of them. None of them have lost any money in actual, but they're all struggling because we bought them in 2021 when property values were going through the roof, interest rates are super low, and then we all know what happened in 22. Interest rates went way up quickly. Insurances went way up, and so some of those deals are struggling. I know a lot of people that have had foreclosures. They've lost a ton of money in multi investing during that time period. So, I think there's an old adage in investing. I think real estate investing is kind of the same thing. It's like, when's the best time to invest in real estate? Yesterday. When's the next best time to invest in real estate? Today, because it's more of a long-term play. And so I think if I could go back in time, or if I could start now, I would definitely be very cautious when going into any type of investment, because it is investment. Everybody will tell you that real estate is a safe investment because it's backed by real estate, it's backed by physical asset, et cetera. But those assets can depreciate in value. Taxes
100%.
can kill, and insurances can kill you. So
Building
uh,
costs, the
yeah. Oh
building
yeah. Talent. We talk
refurbishment
about human capital, the amount of
went
cost
up
to
went
have
up a
a
lot in
property
London.
advice. Yeah, it's there are good and the bad and the ugly. I think you're never gonna invest if you invest long enough. You're never gonna get out completely unscathed. You're always gonna have something. But on balance, I'm like you. I love cash flow investing because that passive income, that mailbox money, whatever you want to talk about or however you want to call it, that's what makes people less stress. Because if you're a W-2 worker and you go to a job and let's say you're earning $5,000 a month, but you've got $2,500 a month coming in passively, well, that makes you feel pretty good because that covers, it's half of your earned income. And so if you continue to over time sell that up, it may outpace your earned income, and then you can do whatever you want to do. You can go in and tell your boss, "Hey, I quit because I'm going to go do my own thing, or I'm going to travel." Yeah, so I'm definitely a big fan of passive income when it.
cash flow businesses we always share here, Justin, because at the end of the day, right? And I think that like this is you point something really important, which is reading the market. A property, like all markets have seasons, like we call it summer, winter, autumn. So we have the same seasons that so there are always four stages. Sometimes you have sellers market, sometimes you have buyers market. It goes kind of cycles. And what Justin described, reading the market is very important, because if when you invest in the property, you need to know exactly what cycle is in your local area. Yeah, because it could be is could be, but overall, Justin, we always share here in broadcast that if you have a property that you can pay off the mortgage, exactly like you did the second condo, and you can rent it out and can give you cash flow, is amazing, because you need money every month. You need money every month to buy food. The bills comes every month. So you get in your job every month. So if you have some a different vehicle that can produce you this monthly cash flow without you can replace your income, and then if you have that covered, that would be amazing, because you can start to work on the foundation. Now you safely can start a business, which that you have, but at least you have a monthly cash flow. And in terms of capital growth, nobody really knows if the property is gonna go up, it's gonna go down, if it's factors can change. However, something is for sure, that unless the interest rate goes very high, and in your state you can fix for the whole mortgage, so you know your number. In London, we don't have that. In UK, we don't have that. You can fix 5 years maximum.
Oh,
You guys, yeah, that is terrible. What happened over there? But you guys can fix the whole time of the thing, so you know your numbers already. You know, no one can change those numbers. So as long as you're positive in cash flow, and also, Justin, even to start in a business is a very safe way, because you can even use this cash flow for marketing or to create your product. And guess what happened? The business doesn't work. You still have the properties giving you income. Whether we always have this message that sometimes entrepreneurs, people have different business, and exactly yours, Justin. Let's talk about your business. Right now, you have a business that you is a recruiting company. Now, we be more sensible, even if it's a recruiting company, and it's a fairly early business, because you started after COVID, right? When COVID hit, so we can call it 5 years, give or take.
Yep.
Would be a healthy thing to do. The money that you getting out of this business, you can use it to buy more property, and this property that this property can do, you can use it for marketing for your own business, and that is even could be a more safety way to expand that business that you're doing right now. Or do you think that that the money that you're making in your own business, you should reinvest in and expand that business, and leave separate the is that you have, like at the safety net?
Yeah, I think the way I think about the kind of income that is generated from my business, it's to fund other investments and kind of fund fun. So my wife's got a really good job. She makes a lot of money, and so my business really is there to allow us to invest in real estate. I'm taking much more of a passive approach to it than active, meaning I'm not going out and trying to find properties myself. I've gotten to the point where I can where I spend my time, right? And I can make a lot of money in my recruiting business. Why not just partner with people that are spending all of their time looking at real estate, whether it's self-storage, whether it's multifamily, whatever the class is. And so I've been able to build a little bit of a network to find people that are actively going out and finding these deals, and they need investors to invest in these deals. And so that's kind of what approach we're taking. some people I know in the real estate world are 100% focused on invested in real estate. They don't invest in the stock market. They don't invest in others outside of real estate. I don't take that approach. I take a little bit more of a portfolio approach. I think having a diversified portfolio, obviously there'll be one asset will be up, the next will be down, but it helps to balance things out. So that's what we're taking. I've so invested in self-storage over the last couple of years. We've invested in short-term rentals, all on the passive side, and so that's just allowed us to generate income without having to spend any real doing it, which is kind of the definition of passive. So, but I do agree that if you're getting a lot of revenue and a lot of profit from your business, and your goal is to scale your business, the best investment is to go put it back into your company. Because if you can invest $100,000 and hire an amazing salesperson, and that salesperson generates $500,000 a year in revenue, well, that's a pretty good return on your investment, right? Because even if you invest $100,000 into a real estate, property, you're probably not going to get, a 5x return on that annually, right? So I think that if you have enough income and you want to scale your business, scaling your own business will allow you to generate a lot more return on that investment. There's a called Who Not How that I read about a year or so ago, and that's kind of the whole point of the book is it kind of changes your mindset away from thinking how can I work harder, cut corners, whatever, to make more money. It's no, how can I bring in to help automate, help outsource, hire more people so that you can go from being a business that is focused on running the business or doing the business to actually being more of you're working on the business, not in it. So being in the talent world, I'm a big proponent of hiring so that you can, generate more revenue for your business, but also allow you to have more free time for yourself.
Yeah, and then how having a free time, when in the business, like you said, even COVID hit, you were facing a lot of challenges there, a lot of pressure, extra pressure came to you, and so how you do with adversity, and of course you have friends and the out of you, they are employees. I remember when I find when I my company, I went out with my friends for a drink, and everybody was talking about the job, about this, about that, and then I said, guys, I opened this company, I'm doing this business, making this money, blah blah. Let's do this, and nobody literally cares, right? So I realized that that I have to lose all my friends, and I was alone. So kind of the same process, right? Because if you have a six-figure salary, and then now you go and you tell your parents, you tell your friends, even you tell your wife, look, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna open my own business. Then I don't think that people some can support you, but some people will say, well, I don't think that this is a good idea. And then COVID come, and then everybody comes to you to reassure you that they were right. I said, look, I told you don't open the business, now you have nothing. You make a huge mistake. So how you overcome the people around you, because these negative emotions it get accumulated, and somehow they have to be. So where do you find the strength?
I would say one thing I'll comment on about the finding new friends. I remember when we started investing in real estate, we got really, really passionate about it. And, we both, when I read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and both of our lights were turned on. We're like, hey, we need to start doing things. And I remember we were out to dinner with one of our really close friends, and we were like, hey, we just bought a duplex in Pittsburgh, and it's gonna X amount of dollars a month in passive income. And we were like, hey, we're already looking at another property. And they were like, oh yeah. I was like, what's up with you guys? They're like, nothing, we're just working our day jobs. And we kept and so I was like, I told Allison, my wife, when we got home, I was like, we may need to find some new people to talk about real estate with, and actually because you will or feed the passion, right? You want to find people that are doing things to you. And so I think you can balance that between your kind of I'll call it old friends. You knew you when you were a W-2, and your new friends that you inevitably find, when you become an entrepreneur. There's so many communities online in your local areas that you can find people that are doing hard stuff, so that you can bounce ideas and commiserate of when you're dealing with hard times. When COVID hit, it was nobody ever experienced before, obviously, right? So there was, and for me as a brand new green entrepreneur, the starting a recruiting business is very low cost. So there's not a lot of overhead. I don't have a physical office space, so I didn't have like monthly rent. I didn't have any employees, and so I didn't have really any cost. So I a very blessing in disguise that I was able to do what I did very, very inexpensively from a business operations standpoint. So, but there was still little to no revenue coming in. So the interesting thing was I found people that were in a very similar position to me. They had their own recruiting business. They were going through the same problems that I was. In normal circumstances, we would be competitors, right? We would be going after the same types of clients, same type of candidates. And instead of kind of looking at it as I'm going to hoard all of my opportunities, all my clients, everything, there's like five of us that would get on Zoom calls once, and most of the calls would be kind of commiserating about how crappy the environment is, how like crazy the world is, and all. But a few of us started to get some business, and we started to be like, hey, I just want to fill this business so this client will be happy, and hopefully they'll give me more business. And so we decided to share kind of opportunities, so that I'm a big fan of high tide rises all boats, right? So we kind of joined together in no form, so that we were all supported by each other. We were all entrepreneurs. I was the newest one to jump out. Everybody else had been out for at least a year or more. But nobody had ever gone through COVID. So if you do jump out and you find hard times, whether it's a pandemic, or you just aren't growing fast enough, or your product is taking off as well as you thought, that you find people that are doing similar things. It doesn't have to be in the same industry, because it is good to get kind of outside opinions or outside thoughts and perspectives. But find people that are in the same world that you're in, going through the same stuff, because all of the entrepreneurs that I've met, for the vast majority, are very open to sharing how they got from where they are to where they were to where they are. Any type of resources that they use, so that you can, accelerate your success. Because I think most entrepreneurs out there are very much high tide rises all boats, and we're all doing hard stuff, and we all want to try to make it as quote unquote as easy as possible. But you still got to wake up every day and motivate yourself. And I think having a tribe, a community, or whatever you want to call it, is super helpful.
The power of the mastermind. I think one of the reasons why we do this podcast, Unstoppable, 5 step how to make your first to support entrepreneurs, is because I realized, when I started my first business, how lonely is going to be the life of the entrepreneur. Because at the end, I'm coming from the same background. Few my parents are teachers, right? Then the other day, my dad told me, "What is podcast you doing? What is for?" So they see way to start to break what we actually do. I think that they don't get it, because they say, "Well, what is safety of this?" and it's so. However, the light discovered the first mastermind, okay, and it was a property mastermind.
Mm.
And at the beginning, you see, I read that book, same like you, and I started. Okay, I went to the bank, they lent me $3,000 and pounds, and I was in a property strategy called rent to rent. So you rent the property, rent it individually by rooms, and then you can do it again. This kind of model in London works way before Airbnb. Airbnb didn't exist when I was doing this. I'm telling you,
Okay.
long time ago. And it's an amazing business model. However, I was so busy trying to make this business work, and every day you're alone. You didn't know anything. I didn't even know what marketing was. I didn't even know that you need to make the profit and things like that. I was trying to at least don't lose money and make sure that we numbers, so we have some money remaining. I said, well, if after I pay everything, still there is money in the bank account, I'm doing well.
That's right.
So, but then really changed when I find after 4 years, five in the business, I was into a property mastermind, and I discovered a lot of things. One of the things that I discovered is that number one, I was not the only one that was doing my business. There were other people doing my business bigger and better than me. I thought that I invented my business. that, that me, another friend, yeah, that also was doing kind of the same thing, that we were the only people that we invented this. And we realized that when we went to the property mastermind, that we didn't invent anything. It was for a long time, and the people that were huge compared to us with more infrastructure procedures and things like that, and I people that they were doing other vehicle or other type of strategy that I even didn't know that exist, right? Like just described, like as storage, commercial. In this property mastermind, there were lawyers. And it was very positive for me, especially because I do have a space as well. Everybody was, all the other investors that they own several houses and everything, they were quite impressed with the rent to rent activity that I was doing. They even want to learn from me. I'm like, guys, do you really want to learn something from me, you guys that that owns many
You're the
houses and
impressive
everything?
ones. You're
Yeah,
you're the
I've
multi.
space that, well, I'm as important as the rest of the people in the community, whether outside this circle, wherever I go, the is very, because nobody cares what I had to say, what I had to talk about. Totally the opposite. They I got a degree. I have a degree in chemical engineering, right? And the whole conversation always have been, you went to university, you're an engineer, why you don't find a job, and then, so Justin, the question that I would like to ask you is, if you have to start all over again, what would you do different?
That's a good question. I think I would try to being a entrepreneur and kind of starting a business by yourself, to what you said earlier, is very lonely. In the
It was for me big time.
Yeah, you
I'm
can
still
have.
traumatized because of this. I
Yeah,
think that's the
and
reason why I do this
especially,
podcast.
yeah, well, and especially in this day and age where a lot of things are virtual, right? We're meeting
Mhm.
across the world. But so I think one thing I would do is find a tribe a little earlier. Obviously, starting a business in COVID, it was a little
I
harder to
agree with
find it.
you.
And for me, I like old school. I still face to face. I still like going and grabbing coffee, lunch or whatever, or just kind of having an income, because it spurs a little bit more creativity for me. Other people can have their own opinions, but so I think I would have found that if I could have during COVID, I would have found that tribe a little bit sooner, because I think potentially I could have been farther along in my business. If I could go back to 2021, just after COVID was kind of still raging, but people were starting to hire, everybody was going remote. I would have doubled down on the business and hired a ton of people, because in 2021, and even 2022, recruiting was you get a ton of money in recruiting, and while I left a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, and so there was just a lot of unrealized opportunities that I could have gone after if I would have gone, if I would have, I was all in, if I would have doubled down and really just went all in, I think would have been even more successful than we have been. So it's hard to say what I would have done differently with COVID, because there's not much I could have changed, or I did as much prep as I possibly could to prepare myself for that. But that's something anybody can really prepare for. So, but yeah, I think finding a tribe, finding people that were doing things that I'm doing as early as I possibly could, I think makes a ton of sense, because not only can you sometimes as an expert, even though you may not feel like it. Another attribute of being an entrepreneur is self imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not, you should have this success, or you shouldn't be sharing opinions. At least that's my perspective. I don't even though I've been in recruiting for almost 20 years, there's people that have louder voices that are less experienced, but they're comfortable sharing, all of that. So that's kind of up to you how you want to, go about kind of sharing your opinions. But finding a mastermind or a networking or whatever of entrepreneurs, I think is super powerful.
Finding a group of entrepreneurs and a community that support you, it makes a huge difference in my business also, and it's huge difference. I agree with you 100%. And if you are just thinking about it, you can start by listening to this podcast, by to try and find that tribe, that group of people that is talking about the subject, what is possible, because it gets really lonely. The fastest that you can, for me, like I said, was it from day to night. After I find the property group, so grateful for that group, and so many doors open because they were all entrepreneurs. So now we start to do trainings and go to events prepared for entrepreneurs, and even I end up doing events for entrepreneurs myself. The company because I lead that. By the way, we were doing events all over the world, in Singapore, Peru, Mexico, London, face to face.
Yeah.
And I took plane. I was in Peru, and we're supposed to have 10,000 people. We had done this type of tour before, and I landed in Peru, and they said, well, you guys, you're able to do the tour because COVID is here, so they move all the speakers to one house. Can you imagine?
Oh yeah.
So we end up that go to the tour in Peru to end up in weather was very good and food was amazing. Not complaining about Peru. It was amazing place where I was locked there for 111 days.
Oh,
in
wow.
Lima. In Lima, yeah. And again, and having one business, which is literally how you pivot that will literally is face to face. We were doing conference in real people face to face. And I'm the same like you. I'm a face to face guy, right?
Yeah.
And how you pivot this? And exactly as you said, somebody after 2-3 weeks, somebody, and then you try to calm your employees as well. Okay, so everything's gonna be okay. And I'm kind of thinking, I don't know how it's gonna be okay, but should be fine. Talking to the, I say, well, we figured out something, guys. Don't worry about it. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know what we're gonna figure out. This thing. It seems that when it's gonna be the next event, and then about week 4 or something, a friend told me there is something. So what is that? Yeah, you get together, and then the rest is story.
Yeah.
So just amazing how it can happen, and because you're in business, exactly. Plan always to your foundation, have solid foundation, especially some of you that have been in business and experienced COVID. Remember, try to, and still in business, anything can happen, right? Even with property, everything can happen. But try to have a solid foundation based in cash flow. Either you invest in property or in business. So anything that happens, this cash flow can get you back until things get better. Because there is something for sure, that things can go really bad. It's not forever.
That's right.
Same. So it's bad is not forever. At some point, reach a point that's not gonna get worse, and it start to get better. So Justin, if someone is in love with our conversation, how people can find more about you, how people can find you, how this process work?
Yeah. I'm
What's the name of your company?
Yeah. So Hire Tomorrow is the name of the company, and it's just hiretomorrow.com is the my email is just jdixon Dixon at hiretomorrow.com. But yeah, LinkedIn, check me out on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about entrepreneurship, about recruiting, hiring, anything like that, feel free to reach out. That's probably the best way to catch me. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Justin. And for all of you following the broadcast, in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Justin break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.